Hello, hello, and okay, we are talking with Beth Lipson, who is a dear friend and a client, and we are going to talk a little bit about an experience that she had in the transformation program. We do a lot of mindset work, and we do a lot of work with our thought life and how we think, and so we recognize throughout some of this process some thoughts that don't serve us. You can call them limiting beliefs, you can call them strongholds, you can call them thought patterns, whatever buzzword you want to latch onto is fine. But basically, bottom line is that we latch onto them and they are not serving us, whether they're true or not, but more than likely, they're not even true. So we have been working through lots and lots of mindset lessons over the course of about a year coming up. And this has been something Beth has made some really great progress in the group, but she kind of hit a plateau. And some plateaus are great, but this was kind of a wall. It was more like just crashed into the wall and stopped, and not just a necessary plateau along the way. So this is what we did to break that. And I'm going to give this over to Beth to talk about a little bit about her thought and how it was affecting her and what pain it was causing.
I really have the idea that my worth is based in accomplishment. My worth is based in excelling at things. Our checklist that we post that provides some great accountability and is very beneficial was very difficult for me to do because I couldn't ace everything.
Yeah, if you didn't check everything,
If
then
I couldn't
why
make
bother?
if I couldn't make 100, then I'm just going to disengage.
And how often do we all think that way? I'm not going to try
Because I can't succeed.
Yeah, if I can't do it perfectly or win, then what's the point? So if I don't try, I don't fail. So there's a lot of mental energy wrapped up in the fear of failure. And so that's a misconception that we tackle, and we reframe what failure means in the program. But that's hard.
It is hard.
Even though you may know something intellectually, the wounds of the heart continue to interfere. So let's talk a little bit about the wound of the heart that kind of led to your overachievement and perfectionism.
The best way for me to be accepted, to be affirmed, to be noticed was achievement. If I could blow the top off of something in achievement, then I had worth.
Yeah.
There was an authority figure in my young childhood that abruptly and without cause just rejected me. Looking back as an adult, I realized that this person probably didn't like anybody.
Yeah.
It didn't really have anything to do with me, but as a 5-year-old kid, that's the way I interpreted it.
Of course.
And I've allowed, this person's been dead for 40 years. Why am I allowing what I perceived as their view of me, which I doubt very seriously he really thought through, to affect me?
And this is coming from her 5-year-old memory and the experiences and knowledge that a 5-year-old has to come up to protect herself. That we carry that into adulthood and we're unaware of it. We don't even, and it might have served her well as a 5-year-old. But now, as a
64-year-old,
it's not serving you, and
No.
it hasn't served you for decades. So what then do we do with that? We figured out what's the problem. So then what is it that we're going to do about it? Because knowledge is great and awareness is the beginning of change, but you have to have application, and then you have to actually take action for any real transformation to ever happen. So let's talk a little bit about how overachievement, for whatever the reasons are, has affected your progress in your weight loss journey and your health. I like to call it a health journey because it's more than just weight loss.
If you only want to participate in things that you know you can do perfectly, it's very limiting.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being okay at something. You don't have to be perfect to participate.
Right.
And there are a lot of things in my life that I did not do because I knew I would not do them ideally, perfectly. If I couldn't be the best, then I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. And how did that affect your health and your progress?
My health, I would set unrealistic goals and expect that I would go, in the past, I'd go on this diet and I'm going to do this absolutely perfectly every single day forever, and that's not doable. Nobody can do that.
And so when you weren't able to do
I
that,
quit.
yeah. And so what did that do to your mental and emotional health? Because there's 4 pillars of health, right? There's physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And when one is whacked out, the other ones are going to follow. And I say your body leaks. It leaks in your behavior and it leaks in its health. So up here is dysfunctional and chaotic and unhealthy, malnourished is a word I love. Then your body's it's going to have ramifications with some kind of diseases or dysfunctionality physically, and then behavior, which is you're extremist. You're on a diet 100% or you're off a diet 100%. So binge, right? Binge and purge. And
Well,
binge
and if I can't do it, then I might as well just eat whatever I want to.
Sure.
And I ended up with weight loss surgery,
Yeah.
which, praise God, was successful. But a lot of that, looking back, a lot of that came out of an all or nothing mindset.
Yeah.
Which is not achievable.
And
Human
with
beings are not
weight
perfect.
loss-
We can't do it.
No. And with weight loss surgery, you were forced then. So you can force it for a while. But what happened when COVID hit?
I put on 20 pounds.
Right. As most people did.
Yeah, I love the saying, I've got a meeting, so I've got to put on my business pajamas. I think a lot of us did that. Yoga pants lie to you.
They do.
They tell you everything is great, and then you put your jeans on and you figure out it's not.
Yep.
So I really wanted to be honest, it scared me because the weight loss that came after my surgery was so beneficial and so transformative, and putting that weight on terrified me. I thought, what if I put it all back on? Then what?
Yeah.
So that was part of my motivation to join the transformation program.
Sure.
Is because I knew I had things I needed to deal with to allow me to get back on track so that I didn't continue to slide, if that makes sense. Because you don't gain it all back all at once. It's an erosion.
It's a slow burn.
Yes, exactly. And that's what scared me.
Yeah.
If you're trending up, that's very frightening.
Yeah. And kudos to you for recognizing that and then taking action to do something about it, because she was still exercising with me.
But it took fear to get me there.
Of course, that's a motivator. It's the number one motivator,
Yes,
pain and fear. We either move towards it or away from it, right? So once you gained the weight and you joined the program, and we do tackle a lot of nutrition.
Yes, we do.
A lot of nutrition. There's obviously exercise. I mean, we tackle that, but we also tackle the other 3 pillars of health. And so as we've been working on the other 3 pillars of health, and then being accountable for the physical stuff, there was still something that you kept hitting the wall on. So let's go and dive into that just briefly.
Like I said, I had to be super achiever. If there was an area I couldn't super achieve, then I'm just not going to do it.
So with all of the nutrition guidance and the she was still again showing up for workouts, but
That's because this has become an essential part of my self-care.
yes.
And if you told me that would happen 3 years ago, I would have laughed at you. But it is an essential part. This is a huge priority.
Yeah. And she rarely misses.
Because I feel better. It makes all of my life better. I feel empowered.
Good.
And there are things I can do that I didn't think I could do at 64. So,
Like water ski for the first time.
well, kind of. But at least I tried. I was willing to try.
Exactly.
But a lot of it is just functional fitness.
Yeah.
And we lost both my mother and my mother-in-law in the last 2 years, watching the difference between someone who spent a lifetime exercising and someone who did not, and deciding which path I wanted. And it was not, I wanted to exercise. I wanted to be able to be the best I could be for as long as I'm here.
Yeah. Which is a big deal.
It's a very big deal.
That's part of self-love and self-efficacy and self-worth and self-esteem.
Well, and if God is leading me to serve in a particular area and I can't do what he's calling me to do because I'm not physically capable of it, well, I'm physically capable of it, but I'm not healthy enough to do it.
Right.
That's a problem.
So how has the mindset, the mental block, the thought that we killed affected, do you feel like, your ability to move forward in your weight loss, because that's obviously a big concern and a goal, but also move forward in your bravery and courage, because God never calls us to step out in something easy. It's always
Absolutely.
It requires a little bit of courage and
getting
trust.
out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And my comfort zone is to limit myself to things I can excel at.
Right. So as we've discovered this, and obviously we have a weekly group mindset lesson on Zoom, everything's online, where we talk and discuss topical things, and then we do application coaching at the end, but we also do one-on-one coaching individually with each person. And in that process, we go into the private things and the deep dive things, where she was actually able to whittle it all the way down to a significant person
And a significant event.
a significant event. So once you have that piece, then you can actually do something about it. Because if you don't know where things are coming from, it's really difficult to course correct, because you're just everywhere. There is no course.
You don't know where the bad turn was.
Right. So we were able to do that. It's not necessary always to go that deep, but it was, God led us there, so we went with it. We took the gift. So we did that a few months ago.
Mm-hmm. We did
Initially, and we've been chipping away at this thing, because let's be real. It's been almost 60 years in the making, so that has a deeper ingrained root than other healthy thoughts. So. And it's been habitual. It's a life that has been your lifestyle.
It's ingrained.
Yeah. So we have to kind of change that, and you can't make a dramatic. Anyone been on an airplane where the pilot goes bank, and you're just like banking it all of a sudden?
Uh-huh.
So that's dramatic and difficult on the body physically.
And not necessarily the best course.
Not necessarily. So it wasn't for Beth.
No, it was not.
So there's lots of lessons along the way that you wouldn't trade now, even though then you're like, let's just bank it, man, and dump this out. So we finally reached the point to where she realized, I realized a long time ago.
Actually, well, but the really weird thing about writing this out and putting it on paper,
yeah,
and crumpling it up and burning it, I thought, this is just symbolic. This is just a weird Kim thing. I'll go along with it. I trust her. I can't see why this is possibly going to accomplish anything. But the dramatic thing has been the effect.
Yeah. So let's tell them what we're talking about. So finally, after I don't know, and I say months, it's probably been 3 or 4 months, where she was at a stagnant holding pattern on weight loss, and she had a lot of mental malnourishment, emotional distress because of some life things that we helped work through some and got through, but there was still something just nagging her, holding her back and keeping you oppressed. And so in a mindset lesson, one of the group ones, you mentioned it again, and finally I was like, that's enough. We need to
deal with it.
Kill it. How long has this person been dead?
40 years.
40 years, and it's still torturing her. His
cruelty.
Yeah, cruelty just was a lasting effect in the world. So how you act around other people and what you're putting out in there will outlast you for 40 years or longer. So it's important to be mindful of that. But I was like, you know what? We don't need to discuss this any further. We know the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The person that it originated from has been dead 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
We need to have a funeral, a cremation service. We need to kill it and get rid of it. And so
that's what we did.
That is what we did. And she was right. I had her write everything out, write it in a letter, write to the person how it's affected your whole entire life.
Well, and also reflect on the fact that what he said about me is contrary to what God says about me.
Yeah. On the back, we flipped it and we wrote what was true. And she wrote that part to herself. Mm-hmm. And it was full of God's truths. And
God says I am
promises.
fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
And
that
his opinion is a whole lot more important.
And grace is sufficient. Because it is impossible to show other people grace if you can't show grace to yourself.
Well, if you can't accept grace.
Well, sure, you have to be able to accept it. And that's part of showing yourself some grace. And that helps you break free of the perfectionist mindset. But also, it allows you to have some self-esteem, self-efficacy, self-worth, and self-care. There's a big misconception that self-care is selfish, especially in the Christian woman circle. We have to give it all away. If we care for ourselves, then it's selfish. And so we have wrong. And we have to wait till the kids grow up, and then you have the grandkids. It's just, and it's dysfunctional. It's malnourishment in all four pillars of health. And God does not say that, right? It's not vain to care for the temple of the Holy Spirit and make that a priority, not the priority,
but a priority.
A priority, and for many of us,
everything
it's
else
not.
work better. It makes everything else work better.
It really does, and it gives you energy. Energy begets energy, right? So it was important for us to kill that and have a ceremony. So we did, and I'm going to post pictures of the ceremony. I recorded it, but I'll just post pictures because it's private. But we did have a cremation ceremony.
Yes, we did.
And Beth read out loud her letter to this person, flipped it over, and read out loud the truth that God says to herself. And then what?
Then I crumpled it up. We put it in a little metal bucket and carefully set it on fire.
Yeah.
And like I thought this was going to be symbolic. I really did not anticipate any benefits. I'm sleeping better. I've lost 8 pounds. And I'm really not trying, that was not one of my goals for this session. I was focusing on some other stuff, weight loss per se. Well, I've been 8 pounds since the beginning. I've probably lost about 4 to 5 pounds since we did that.
Okay.
But I've lost 4 to 5 pounds without trying.
Yeah.
And that's not my norm at all. But I feel better. There's less tension. There's a lot more peace. And I'm sleeping better. We've had a lot of stress the last couple of years. I've struggled to get 6 hours of sleep a night. It's like I've got narcolepsy now because I can wake up and roll over and go back to sleep. And that sounds minor, but it's not.
It's not minor.
So I'm hitting my sleep bills on a regular basis. And how can crumpling up a piece of paper make life better? But it did.
Yeah.
Because I needed the physical exercise of putting that down and leaving it there. And realizing and accepting that his opinion or his actions should not be important to me at this point in my life. Those are his, they're not mine. So that's what we did.
It is. And we laid it at the foot of the cross. We
And
caught
left
it
it
on
there.
fire so she couldn't pick it back up metaphorically. Well, physically,
Yeah.
but metaphorically as well. And we did video it so she could have that reminder, because when you see, smell, hear, taste, it brings memory. And we want to replace that bad memory with the truth, the cremation memory. It's gone. So when you're tempted to pick things back up, you can remember, no.
It's gone.
And rewatch that and have that
And
emotion come back up.
I have rewatched it.
Good. And then also it's a mile marker in your journey of life that you can go back to that. There's a before and there's an after of a lot of mile markers in life. And this is one.
Yes.
So when you're talking to other people, you can go back to that mile marker and then understand and see God working throughout. And
God does work in ways that are never what I would have anticipated. That his ways are not my ways. His timing is not my timing. And you'd think I'd have figured that out by now, but I'm still a work in progress.
Yeah, aren't we all? So, so the physical, just the benefits that have come from the mindset work and the intentionality of it. And because it's hard and scary and painful to face certain things, but it's so worth it. And she not only put down mental and emotional and spiritual baggage, she unloaded all of that, which is where the peace is coming from, right? But she put it down physically, and she's shown physical nourishment from it.
Physical benefits.
Yeah, 100%.
Which I thought we were just going through the motions. Kim does this kind of stuff. But there have been tangible physical benefits.
Yeah.
And so I'm very grateful we did it.
Yeah. And I'm grateful that you allowed me to be a part of it.
So it was...
Because it's very vulnerable. Very vulnerable. Yeah.
Well, and to take those things you've hidden in the dark corners of your mind because you don't want to deal with them because they hurt, and pull them out in the light of day and look at them and see how insignificant they really are.
Oh, yeah. Anything in the dark seems bigger than it really is.
That monster in the closet is really not that big.
No, it's just the coat you hung up weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a funny shadow.
Or a funny shadow that disappears when you shine the light on it. And it's important to have somebody that you trust and that respects privacy, and who is also spiritually guided in the right way, right? So
Yes.
we did do this through prayer and biblical scripture. This was not something that I just came up with on a whim and one of my weird things, but it was biblically sound, which is super, super important in the process.
And scripturally based.
So it was, and again, Beth's in charge of her life, and she wasn't ready a few months ago to do that.
It takes time.
It does.
It would be nice if we could do it all overnight, but that's not, again, God's timing is not my time.
You have to wade through the river of misery for a while sometimes. For 40 years in the desert, people.
40 years in the desert. Well, actually longer than that. So like 59 years in the desert. But it did serve me well as a child, but I'm not a child.
No.
And I will put away childish things.
Absolutely, which I love it. So y'all, the reason we're sharing this is because I know a lot of y'all are dealing with these things, because we all are, including myself. And I know how terrifying it is, and I know how you feel, how scary it is to confide in somebody else. You feel like you're going to be judged. You feel like no one's going to love you or like you, and they're going to judge you and think you're a horrible person. And I promise that is rarely the case. I've never experienced it. And I've never thought it about a client, but it's something that the devil uses to keep us stuck. And so, I want to encourage you guys to not be scared to the point of paralyzed. So take a moment to be introspective. If you need help doing that, that's something that I'm good at coaching people into, but you can do it for yourself, obviously. But we're in a supported, encouraging, biblical group that we're all working through these hard things together, and I feel like that is makes it a little bit easier.
I would definitely agree.
Yeah.
Well, and we talk about a lot of things that are food for thought and that you mull over later and that yield benefits.
Yeah.
Because it's just like I'm always saying, if I exercise on my own, I exercise the muscles that are already strong, and I
course.
kind of ignore the rest of them. And psychologically, it's the same thing.
Yeah,
I confront the things that are easy.
sure.
I don't want to think about the things that are hard.
Yep, the human condition.
Yes.
So, y'all give Beth some hearts in the comments, and celebrate her. It's important to celebrate these things, and to share them, because it encourages and inspires others who are not quite there yet, or who are right smack in the middle of it, to keep going. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, but that you can do a lot of physical good if you'll spend a little bit of time working on the mental. And yeah, so
Healing old wounds.
yeah, healing old wounds. So do you have one piece of gold nugget advice, or just a gold nugget from this experience that you want to leave with anybody who might be struggling?
Perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yeah,
That's a big one for me.
yeah,
Because if I can only do things I can do perfectly, that really limits my life.
yep,
And it doesn't need to be.
no. And failure is just a stepping stone to being on the right path.
And it's a teachable moment.
Yep. Proud of you.
Thank you, my friend.
Love you. You've done great work. So like I said, you guys, show some hearts for Beth in the comments. Let her know you're supporting her and her journey. And we will talk to y'all later. Thanks for watching. Bye.